What is going on at Michigan? We got some more things breaking, pseudo-breaking around the whole Connor Stallions, Sherrone Moore situation. There is a draft of a notice of allegations from the NCAA. Now, draft does not mean the same thing as final copy. We'll talk about what that draft says, and we'll give you our opinion on this whole thing because, again, I think this whole thing has been ridiculous from the jump. But regardless, if you are a Michigan Wolverine fan, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. If you're a college football fan, period, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We are just, a few weeks away from college football actually being played and storylines like this hopefully no longer being talked about. Lock in right here. It's college football, the way that you want college football to be talked about. This is for the fan, by the fan kind of thing. So make sure you're locked in here. Also follow me on the social channels at JD Pakel on Instagram and on Twitter to stay with everything that we're doing right here on this show, The Hard Count. So here's the latest. Sherrone Moore is one of 7 Michigan staff members from the 2023 team accused of violating NCAA rules, again, in a draft of NCAA's notice of allegations. Let me say this one more time. Draft is not the same thing as final copy. So what's in this draft may not actually be in this final copy. What they're saying is, what is allegedly being said here is Sherrone Moore deleted 52 text messages with Connor Stallions. Those were later recovered. The accusation is a level 2 violation, according to this draft, against Sherrone Moore. Important to note here, level 1 is the worst violation you can have. So the fact that it's level 2 and not level 1, I think probably should say something about what they found in those messages. Also probably says something I would have to believe about Sherrone Moore cooperating. The bottom line here is if it was level 1, that would be a little bit more cause for concern. It's level 2 against your current head coach. It is what it is. Also, Connor Stallions. We said it on a previous show. He was on the Central Michigan sideline. Again, that whole thing is wild, and we'll learn more about that, I would hope, in the Netflix documentary that's coming out a little bit later this month. The whole Connor Stallions thing with him being on the Central Michigan sideline, again, it's cheating, it's wrong, it's not okay. Some college football sicko part of you is a little bit like, wow, that's kind of impressive. Bottom line, you broke the rules. I don't think anybody was really looking at that guy in sunglasses and a hat on the Central Michigan sideline and was like, wow, who is that? Are we sure that's Connor Stallions? Everyone's pretty much believed and known that's Connor Stallions for some length of time here. So shouts to the NCAA for nailing that one. Good work by y'all. All right, so here's what I don't understand. Here's the opinion part of this. That's what we know. Here's my opinion part of this. Are we really still trying to square whether or not Michigan broke the rules? Is that really the discussion? Did Michigan cheat? Did they steal the signs in an illegal way? Like, that whole thing to me has felt like common sense conversation since this whole thing started. Like, from the jump, you see someone on a Central Michigan sideline against Michigan State. Yeah, Michigan broke the rules. I don't think that's up for debate. So the fact that we're continuing to dig this thing up, it's continuing to be a storyline. Just personally, I think it's exhausting based on how Michigan finished the year last year. The other part of this is, and this is pretty obvious as well, the timing of this whole thing leaking, the draft getting out a few weeks before the Connor Stallions documentary comes out from Netflix, that's not coincidental. That is the NCAA trying to negotiate what this final draft is going to be, or trying to negotiate with Michigan, period, I suppose. They're trying to control the narrative here because here's the deal, too. Connor Stallions, from my understanding, sat for that Netflix documentary from around the whole situation with Michigan. Connor Stallions, based on everything we know about him, lives and breathes Michigan football. He's not sitting for an anti-Michigan documentary from Netflix. Like, we're going to watch that documentary. I have to believe it's going to put Michigan in a very good light. So the NCAA is saying, well, that doc's going to be pro-Michigan. Here's our side of the story. Here's our thing we're going to throw out there. It is what it is. So there's a lot of discussion now about what happens next for Michigan. Do they give them a bowl ban? Do they give them a postseason ban? Are they vacating wins? I have a couple of issues with that. The first is, if you want to vacate wins, or you want to vacate a national championship in the most extreme sense, my problem with that is, essentially, that is you saying that you believe Connor Stallions illegally stealing signs is impactful enough for Michigan to not be the national champion. I have an issue with that. Also, the reason why I'd have an issue with you slapping Michigan with a postseason ban or vacating wins is if the best you can do in a draft is give the head coach a level 2 violation, that's the best you can do, you got to come with a little bit more juice for me, NCAA, if you're trying to get Michigan to vacate some wins or vacate a national championship or this, that, and the other extreme consequence. I am not saying Michigan should not be punished. I am not saying they did not break the rules. I think we can all agree that is pretty common sense. Michigan also, in some sense, has been punished. The self-imposed suspension on Harbaugh to start the year, the suspension at the end of last year in their most important stretch of the regular season, there has been punishment there. If you want to punish Sherrone more for this whole thing, go right ahead. But if you truly believe in your heart of hearts, Connor Stalions stealing signs illegally and everything that they're accusing Michigan of here was the difference maker with how dominant Michigan has been the last couple of years in the Big Ten and ultimately that national title run, I would say you're not watching football. You're not watching what actually happened on the field. And again, this is not me telling you that Michigan should be without punishment. I've said that many a time now. But to go ahead and give them a postseason ban or vacate wins when the best you can do is a level 2 violation for your head, like that is, what are we doing here? What are we? This whole thing just feels very stupid to me. It felt stupid from the jump. It's very interesting, I think, where some of this noise comes from in regards to specific pockets of the college football landscape. Like, the only people that really have an issue with this are specific fan bases that are already anti-Michigan. And I'd be the same way. And I don't have a dog in the fight here. Like, I grew up in Southern California, all right? I'm not a Michigan fan or an Ohio State fan or a Penn State fan or a Georgia. Like, I'm not, like, tied to any allegiance here. Just as a college football fan, it is very frustrating to me to see individuals who likely have never played college football try and assign a value to the impact of what sign stealing actually equates to. It's against the rules. Punish them. But you think it was impactful enough for them to win a national championship? You weren't watching the line of scrimmage. You weren't watching the domination from Michigan on both sides of the football. You weren't watching the number of draft picks they just had. And so, again, I'm not excusing it, but I do think we need to qualify it and put it in the proper context. Now, here's what I'll say going forward for Michigan. The more this bubbles up, the more of a chip this puts on this team's shoulder, which, quite frankly, they already should have a fair amount of ammunition. Like, they're already being told about what they're not going to do, who they don't have coming back, everybody they lost their head coach, lost their quarterback, new coordinator, like all those things. To now pile this on. I'll tell you what, we did not have Michigan in our college football playoff in our prediction live show last Thursday. Go check that out if you haven't already. The more ammo this gets, the more traction this gets, the more this storyline persists, the less good I feel about that. Because I tell you what, man, Texas is going to come to town week 2. And I think Texas, as we sit here today, you feel better about their roster. But it is very difficult to quantify the impact of a chip on a team's shoulder. And as if Michigan needed any more motivation, that chip on their shoulder has now become boulder sized, and they probably have one on either shoulder. So take of that as you will. Michigan will be out for blood. If they weren't already, they definitely are now. This whole thing is ridiculous. I'm not a fan of it. It's only a draft, so we'll see what eventually happens here long term. If they do go to a postseason ban, if that is what the NCAA tries to do, I promise you Michigan will swing back in a very, very full force. They will take the gloves off, right? So lock in here. We'll talk about Michigan. We'll talk about all things college football because we love the sport. We appreciate y'all being a part of it. So subscribe here. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter at JD Pickell. Let me know your thoughts, all right? We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.